Okay, so have you ever been like right in the middle of like a really intense game and your partner walks in and is like, "Oh, hey, want to watch something else?"
Oh, yeah, totally pick.
It gets even crazier during those massive sporting events. Like think March Madness.
Oh, yeah, March Madness is basically relationship mayhem waiting to happen.
Totally. And that's kind of what we're diving into today in this deep dive, like how much our sports viewing habits really affect our relationship.
Because let's be real, it's not just about the game. It's about like shared space-time priorities, all that stuff.
Right. And we've got some pretty wild stats to back this up, all coming from this recent survey that was done around this hilarious thing called the College Basketball Championship 2025 Prenuptial Agreement.
A prenup for basketball.
Okay.
Oh, okay, now I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this.
It's actually from BetUS, the sports book. And it's basically this funny, like, mock prenup that couples can use to decide how many of the NCAA tournament games each person gets to watch.
Hold on, there are 67 games in the tournament, right?
You got it 67.
So this prenup is like dividing up almost 70 games between two people. That's intense.
Oh, it's serious business.
Okay.
And get this, it even has a part about, like, making sure you actually coordinate your viewing schedule so you're not just, like, basketball all the time and you still have, like, a light, dinners, dates, all that.
Okay, so they're thinking about the actual logistics of fitting all these games into a relationship without like completely sacrificing everything else.
Exactly. And the whole thing is meant to be funny. But it does point to this real thing, right? Like this underlying tension that can bubble up when you've got two people with different levels of sports fanaticism.
Yeah, because for some people, those 67 games are like can't miss TV. And for others, it's like 67 reasons to start a fight.
And that's where the survey comes in.
Yeah.
It kind of lays bare just how much sports can actually cause arguments in relationships.
So spill the tea. What kind of numbers are we talking about?
Get this, 28% of couples straight up admitted that sports can lead to arguments like full-on disagreements, not just little bickers.
Wow, 28%. That's more than 1 in 4 couples dealing with sports-related drama.
And it gets even wilder for Gen Z couples.
Yeah.
Those between 18 and 24, for them, it's 1 in 4 who've actually thought about breaking up because of sports.
Whoa, 1 in 4. That's huge. It's like sports fandom is reaching a whole new level of intensity for that generation.
Right. Like, imagine being so into a team that you're willing to risk your relationship over. It makes you think about, like, what's changed, right?
Maybe it's something about how we view relationships now or how important personal passions are. Or maybe it's just that Gen Z is way more upfront about their deal breakers.
Yeah, and, we actually spoke to someone about this, Yasmin Saad, who's a licensed clinical psychologist and couples therapist, and she had some really interesting insights.
Oh, definitely. Psychologists see the stuff firsthand all the time. What did she have to say?
So she pointed out this thing that a lot of guys bond over sports, right? It's like a big part of their friendships, and then they want to bring that into their romantic relationships too.
Yeah, makes sense, guys. Hanging out, watching the game. It's like a classic scenario.
Exactly. But then she said that a lot of times their female partners are looking for different ways to connect.
Mhm.
They want that quality time, but maybe it looks more like going out to dinner or having deep conversations, not just sitting in front of the TV.
It's like different love languages,
Yeah.
right? One person is saying, I love you by sharing my favorite team with you, and the other is saying, I love you by wanting to do something else together.
Right. And if those expectations aren't clear from the start, it can definitely lead to some tension.
And resentment, too, right? Like feeling like you're always competing with a sports team for your partner's attention.
And, it's not always just a small thing. The survey found that 26% of people actually said that a person's sports watching habits could be a complete deal breaker in a relationship.
So for a quarter of the people surveyed, this isn't just about missing a few hours together. It's about fundamental compatibility. It's about feeling valued.
And even if it doesn't lead to a breakup, it can still cause some serious issues. Like 17% of people said they actually felt neglected by their partner when they were super focused on a game.
That's got to sting, feeling like you're less important than the score of a game.
Totally. And so then the question becomes like, how much are people actually willing to compromise on this?
Yeah, because if one person is ready to give up everything to watch sports and the other is feeling ignored, there's got to be some middle ground.
And the survey actually looked at this, and it turns out that 24% of men said they were not willing to reduce their sports watching time for their partners.
So basically 1 in 4 guys are saying, my sports come first no matter what.
Kinda, yeah. But there's a silver lining, a much bigger group. 72% of men said they would be willing to compromise to keep their relationship strong.
Okay. That's a much better number. Most guys are at least open to the idea of finding a balance.
Right. So it's not all doom and gloom. And actually, the article gave this really interesting example to illustrate this whole thing. They talked about this guy, Jason Granado. He's a 23-year-old Duke alum living in Soho, and he basically blocked off 3 weekends in a row just to watch his team play during the tournament.
3 weekends, that's dedication.
Oh, yeah, totally committed. And he admitted that this meant skipping his usual weekly dinners and weekend walks with his girlfriend, Maddie Bissell.
So he's choosing the game over quality time with his girlfriend.
Yeah, but his perspective was interesting. He said that the tournament, like, captivates the world, and it becomes his top priority for that month. Like, nothing else matters as much.
So for him, it's more than just a game. It's an experience. It's a connection to something bigger than himself.
Exactly. And it makes you think, right? Have you ever been in Jason's shoes, like, totally engrossed in a game? Or maybe you've been the Maddie feeling like your plans are getting sidelined for sports.
That's a good question to ask yourself. Have you ever had to deal with this kind of situation in your own life? How did it play out?
Because at the end of the day, our love for sports can be this really powerful thing. But these stats show it can also have a real impact on our relationships.
Definitely. And it seems like the key takeaways here are communication and compromise, being upfront about your expectations and finding a way to make it work for both of you.
So here's something to think about as we wrap this up. How can couples talk about this stuff openly? There are different levels of sports enthusiasm, and actually work through it to find that balance, especially during those crazy events like March Madness.
Yeah, and is this whole idea of a prenup for watching sports actually a good way to start that conversation? Make it a little less serious, a little more lighthearted.
Because even if you don't actually sign a contract, just talking about at Duke could help you figure out what really matters most in your relationship, especially when your team is on the line.
It's all about starting that dialogue before things get out of hand, right?
Exactly. Because when the game is on, emotions can run high, and you want to make sure your relationship is still winning at the end of the day.
Couldn't have said it better myself.